What is going on, guys? It is Brett, and I'm here with another Pop Culture Crisis movie review that is not a movie review. This is for the Paramount Plus series Knuckles, which is obviously a spin-off of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie series that had parts 1 and 2 come out in 2020, 2022, and I believe part 3 is coming up very, very soon, and obviously those have been very well received. If you remember, there was a large controversy around the idea of the design of Sonic, which of course in the early trailer of it was a certain type of hellscape that nobody wanted to deal with, and the creators of the series wisely went back, changed the design, and made it much closer to the video game version of the character, which of course brought it a lot of positive word of mouth and goodwill from the fans, and I think both of those films have reflected that, and I enjoyed both of those films. And obviously the second in that series does introduce the legendary character of Knuckles, which is portrayed by Idris Elba. He's voiced by Idris Elba, and you get returning characters throughout this series, more so in episode 1, but those end up being cameos. You do end up seeing Sonic and Tails and some of the other human characters that were mainstays in the film but do not maintain throughout this series. Now, I've got some good things to say about this show, and I've got some bad things to say about this show. It's going to be hard to rate this one because, for the most part, I tend to give my views, my scores based on what I like, and what I like is not necessarily going to be the same thing that you're going to enjoy, but there are some disconnects here that I think inform a decision to watch something like this, but we'll get into that. So in this series, it stars Adam Pally as Wade Whipple. He, of course, was in the other movies, and in this, he wants to win a bowling tournament, and he enlists the help of Knuckles to go and do that. I'm not kidding you. As ridiculous as it sounds, that's what it is, and maybe the strongest part of this series is the silliness in which the silly tone of what he's trying to accomplish, which then comes headlong into the very, very seriously delivered dialogue from the Knuckles character, delivered beautifully by Idris Elba. And that's probably my favorite part in this series. But it's not just starring him, it's Stockard Channing as Wendy Whipple and Eddie Patterson as his sister, Wanda Whipple. And those are the mainstays through most of the episodes. You do get a cameo from Tika Sumpter. She was obviously a more of a mainstay in the movies, but she ends up showing up in episode 1 and not later. And 2 episodes from Carrie Elwes, which is I was very, very happy about. You do get to see, like I said before, Sonic and Knuckles Sonic and Tails in episode 1, but they do not come back after the fact. So spoiler alert if you're planning to watch this. Let's get into what I think were the positives and the negatives of this show. So the positives to me, it is a bit like a fever dream. It's very, very charming in its delivery, but it is very, very true that when you have something like this, you're going to have a disconnect between what people are expecting from these characters in a video game adaptation and what feels like to me like Hollywood creatives running wild when they feel like there is no template for what they have to create. So I do feel like the charming tone is an upside to this, but the problem is like it's kind of like a G-rated Twisted Metal, which I really, really enjoyed, which was on Peacock last year. In this, we'll get into it a little bit more, but the charming tone, as good as it is, I feel like that charming tone is designed for the kids, but the lack of Knuckles, which we will get into, ends up meaning that it's mostly made for adults. So there's a disconnect between what the tone should have been based on who I believe the target demographic for this was. But the episodes are short, which is a huge positive for me. I think the longest episode was in the 40-minute mark, and that was episode 1. The rest of them hover around 35 minutes, and one I think was even 25 minutes. And me personally, I do enjoy something that is no nonsense, gets you in and out, and does not overstay its welcome. One of the things I find that is missing in Hollywood these days is a lot of it feels like, where the hell is the editor? Like, where the hell is the work with the director and the editor to cut down some of this runtime, especially on, prestige television streaming series where there's no network television rules as to how long those episodes go. They run in the, hour 10, hour 20 minutes length, and I don't have the time or the inclination for a lot of that today. I would rather go see a movie that hits the longer period, and even then 2 to 2.5 hours is about where I want to see my films go. It just feels like there's a lot of gratuity in the lengths that most streaming shows are running these days. So the short stink bug on me there. I do feel like the short run times in these episodes is a big help, at least for me, keeping me interested. It could have been a tad more serious, and the reason I say that is because the tone, which is very, very silly, feels like it's made for kids, and that's fine. I feel like this show was designed for children, but the problem is a show designed for children needs the Knuckles character way, way, way more. Kids aren't going to tune in. Even adults aren't really going to want to tune in for the human characters. It's the same thing people were saying about Godzilla vs. Kong or all of the old MonsterVerse movies, right? It's like nobody's here to watch these ancillary human characters talk about their problems or go through whatever they're going through. We are here watching Sonic the Hedgehog, watching Knuckles, to see those characters, which are beautifully designed and done very, very well with the CGI, which I believe probably has a lot to do with why Knuckles is not on screen more, is that it's just expensive to put him on there, and they wanted to make this show, they wanted to advertise this show with the Knuckles character, but they wanted to do it cheaply and do so without using him as much as they should, and I think that is a problem. I will say that in the grand scheme of things, it's better for my brain than Velma, which I watched season 1 and I just refuse to watch season 2 because at its heart, it feels very, very mean-spirited, whereas the tone and the feeling of the Knuckles show is very joyous and happy, in my opinion, and there's a lot of really, really decently done comedy that would have been great if they would have found a way to work this into a series of its own. But the problem is nobody is showing up for the Wade Whipple journey across America to get to Reno, Nevada to win a bowling tournament. And that is, make no mistake, that is really the point of the series. You do get bad guy characters, of course, that represent the organization known as Gun. And this is the other thing that the show really, really fails at for me. The bad guys should have been far more engaging, should have been far more charismatic. You have, these are the name of the actors. So the guy who plays Dr. Robotnik's protege, and that's really his name. They don't give him a name. His name's Rory McCann. And if you look at this guy, he looks like the late Luke Harper, the pro wrestler Luke Harper to me. And then you also have, what was the name? Scott Mescud as Agent Mason and Ellie Taylor as Agent Willoughby. And here's the problem. They needed to get a couple of big-name actors to fill those roles. I would have loved to have seen the Agent Mason character played by a Sterling K. Brown and the Agent Willoughby character played by, like, a Dave Bautista, or give Dave Bautista the role of Robotnik's protege. Of course, that would have broken continuity with what was going on in the movies. But the point is you can work your way around that with writing. And if you get a really good bad guy that really, really draws eyes to the screen, it can kind of make up for the oftentimes overly silly tone that the show employs. Like I said, there's a lack of understanding as to who your target audience is. Like if you're going to go silly and you're going to go slapstick humor and you want to make this for kids, then I feel like Knuckles needs to be on screen way more, because the beauty of the show was that every time Wade is talking to someone and he sounds kind of like an idiot, you have Knuckles respond deadpan in his, very warrior-esque tone, which is very, very charming and fun, and ended up working really, really well. At the end of the show, when him and Wade have this heart-to-heart moment, it's really, really fun and it's kind of beautiful, but he needed to be on screen throughout way more of the show for that to make sense. So I don't know what you're supposed to do there. The storytelling was unfocused as for the journey. There was at one point, I kid you not, there was like a warrant out for Wade's arrest that's then just kind of not mentioned later. They mention having to go undercover, but don't really point as they go into this hotel, but not really paying attention to the idea that, the cops are supposedly after him. Again, if I knew explicitly that this was a show for kids, I would say that that's less important, but I can't figure out who the target demographic for the show is. So the unfocused storytelling and those types of plot holes do end up weighing it down just a little bit. Again, the charm of this show may work for me, but a lot of other people are going to be far less forgiving of these types of mistakes, especially if you're a diehard fan of Sonic and the Sonic universe, which a lot of people who are going to check out this show certainly are. Paramount Plus is not the biggest streaming service, so if you're gonna reel in some outside customers that are only gonna watch this show because they're big fans of Sonic, they went and saw the movies, they've been playing the game since they were kids, the comics, all that stuff, the lore, I don't think that they're going to be very happy with this. I really don't, and that is a problem. The dialogue just becomes too silly at times, which is an issue. I felt like they could have reeled it back in and found a happier middle ground. Oftentimes, Knuckles is that kind of he's that wall, that barrier from from having it reach that level of silliness because he reacts to everything so, in such a serious tone, which is just fantastic. There's a scene, I want to draw attention to this one scene specifically because the issue of video game lore and adaptation, which is huge in comic books, right? How are they going to adapt these stories for the screen? That's a huge issue. And there's a scene here where Wade is taken captive by Jack Sinclair, the bounty hunter, and then he has to basically meditate and figure out his greatest strength. And this scene here, which is basically a concert in a bowling alley, this is exactly what you'd expect self-absorbed Hollywood to do when they believe that they don't need to really pay attention to the lore or the characters. It goes off and becomes unbelievably self-indulgent, and I'm laughing the whole time as I'm watching this, but I'm saying, unless there's a bunch of Easter eggs here that I missed, because of course I played Sonic growing up, 1 and 2 and 3 on Sega Genesis, but I'm not the comic book reader of Sonic or the action figure collector of these things. I'm not the main target demographic that got this thing off the ground. Like, I imagine that for a lot of them, they'll see this as unbelievably overindulgent, and it kind of was. But to me, just because it didn't bother me doesn't mean it's not going to bother someone else. So I think that that's an issue. Wade and Knuckles needed to be on screen together more. It really is hard to explain just how good the Knuckles character is when he's playing against this slapstick comedy stuff, and that credit goes to Idris Elba. Now, a lot of people aren't really fans of that casting choice because they don't think the voice fits, but in the context of this show, I think it fits perfectly because he is the barrier against all of the silliness that you're seeing. So roll back the buffoon stuff, but it felt like to me like they used up their CGI budget in episode 1 and at the end of episode 6, and everything in the middle just felt like human filler character that should have been titled Wade Whipple Journey Across America, which nobody would have gone and seen because Wade Whipple doesn't sell anything. The character of Knuckles sells something. So I guess, guys, if you're a fan of the Sonic franchise, you're going to have to be very, very cautious whether you go and invest in something like Paramount Plus to watch something like this. I enjoyed it because, for me, much like Twisted Metal, I enjoyed the fever dream-esque kind of silly tone of it, but I saw clearly all the places in which a lot of people might feel like it went off the rails and it's not worth their time. So if it's for the kids and your kids are fans of this franchise and what they want is to see, cute CGI characters interact with humans, you're not going to get as much of this as you probably want to make investing in something like Paramount Plus, for a month worth your time. So make of that what you will. I enjoyed it. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy the Knuckles television show? Again, it's only 6 episodes. They're short. It isn't a huge time investment. If you already have Paramount Plus, it may be worth checking out just to see what you think about it. Are you excited about it? Did you find it exciting? Are you excited to watch it? Are you excited to see Sonic 3, guys? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the series or if you're going to bother to watch it. And stay tuned for more Pop Culture Crisis movie and television reviews coming soon, and all new episodes Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Later, guys.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.